fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
It's a Thanksgiving tradition in our house, the playing of all 18 minutes, 34 seconds of the Arlo Guthrie classic, Alice's Restaurant. No, I won't be playing that little ditty in front of family, because clearly I can't. But come noon on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, you can bet the tale of the Alice's Restaurant Massacre, both parts 1 and 2, will be broadcast in the Hutchinson home, whether it's WFUV out of New York at noon or WMMR out of Philly. I'm Jim Hutchinson with a New Jersey, Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine. I always found the strange thing about that song was it was a song about a bunch of hippies who memorialized throwing garbage out in the woods. And yes, an envelope at the bottom of a pile of garbage in the woods in the Pinelands here in New Jersey will get you a ticket just as quickly as it will in the town of Stockbridge, Massachusetts, where Alice's husband Ray and Sasha the dog lived in a church. Now, if you'll just continue to humor me for a moment in advance of this week's holiday, I'll remind you that it all started about 5 Thanksgivings ago. It was about 5 years ago on Thanksgiving when my friends let me know that I'd missed out on a 10-hour blitz of striped bass over the span of about 13 miles along the Ocean County stretch, with Bunker in tight to the beach, getting corralled by striped bass. But since Jimmy wasn't in on the blitz because he was at home working on a Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat, all I can say is what I'm told, which is that the Thanksgiving Massacre of 2016 was one for the ages. Now, before you pack your rods and reels and implements of destruction into the back of your 4x4, let me show you a little taste of what could be in store for us this week should the Thanksgiving Massacre take place. This is the scene from Monmouth County this past Saturday afternoon. Now, I could produce 8x10 color glossy photographs with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining where each fish was caught, but that's not very likely, and you shouldn't expect that, being it would be a grave injustice to those who might already be working that particular stretch of beach. Now, you can break this video down, inspect it, inject it, infect it, detect it, and select it frame by frame to determine the whereabouts of this particular massacre. But because there's simply no telling where the next massacre is apt to take place, I'd suggest you knock out your Thanksgiving Day responsibilities early on Wednesday, which is when I'll be making my Turkey Day stuffing, so that I can go out and enjoy a massacre on Thursday morning and then come back, stuff the bird, and enjoy Massacre Part 2. Yes, peanut bunker, that's what they were blitzing on Saturday afternoon. Throughout the day, nothing but bass. Old school blitz conditions. Folks have seen this action materialize in pockets all along the Ocean and Monmouth County stretch the last week or two. But a pick of fish in the morning, most of this bass madness has been in the afternoons, whether or not it takes place. This week, it's just going to be a crapshoot, right? You want to be in the right place at the right time. You want to identify one of those pockets, look at the beach structure. You got a sandbar, and a natural ambush corral point where you hope the bass are going to push those bunker in tight to the beach. Then it's a matter of throwing the swim shads, 6-inch metal lip swimmers, or perhaps the poppers, the SP minnows. Phil at the tackle box, he suggested the new NLBN shads. That's no live bait needed. That he's got in stock that have been flying off the shelves. In situations like this, when you have bass at your feet, of course, you can get in on the fly action. I've talked to some fly casters doing it. The Geno's Baby Angels, the Beast Flies, the Bunker Flies, or just a Clouser. And sure, you can dead stick, you can put out the chunks of bunker in the bunker head, and you can get yourself a bass that way. Most of them are overs, but sure. But I'll tell you, when these fish are blowing up on peanut bunker like they have been the last week, the cast and retrieve is so awesome, as long as you match the hatch. Now, weather-wise, things look pretty good for us this Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Think about it. Full moon last week, water temperatures finally cooling off, and west winds helping push more bait out of the backyard and out front, where hopefully those west winds that are in the forecast for the next several days will kind of flatten things out. But best of all, the bait will come up tight. A lot of times bunker nose up under the wind, and the closer to the bunker into the beach, the more likely we are to have one of these massacres. So west winds in the forecast through the Thanksgiving weekend. Lock it in. Another Thanksgiving massacre will occur along the Jersey Shore this week. Where exactly, however, is anyone's guess. But there are more stripers and bait explosions to the north. When we look up in the Raritan Bay, so more bass in back. In fact, Pete Perez from Carteret shared this little clip. This was last Thursday on Raritan Bay, way back out near Perth Amboy. Pete called it an epic striper invasion. There were about 24 boats that enjoyed a 4-hour-plus invasion of striped bass, started under the outer bridge, and it worked its way out of the Arthur Kill on the outgoing tide and into Raritan Bay. Now, Pete said he was catching nonstop with the white tsunami 6.5-inch shads. He had 2 shorts, 15 keepers released, including a 23-pound, 38-inch specimen. The smaller white shads, I know this has been working in the surf, those little white tsunamis, if you can get away with a smaller one, because most of these little peanut bunker, 4 to 6 inch, you might have to go a little bit bigger. If you need to get down in the current, of course, they've got those deep shad, the deep jigging. I throw these in the surf from time to time when the waves are real big, but these also, the weighted tsunami shads, are terrific on the vertical jig. You can just drop them down and bring them back up again. Out front, boaters, you know, take that advice with those swim shads, and also the Ava jigs. You want to have plenty of Ava jigs in there. On the move, you might want to try some of the big spoons if you're out there looking for a personal best. I know you've got the 28 to just under 38 slot keeper that you might want to bring home for the Thanksgiving feast, but other than that, you can go out for the personal bests. Just found out recently that Jimmy George's secret spoon is back out again. Met some folks in Staten Island where the secret spoon actually comes in with a little chart in here. And of course, you can't go wrong with the Mojos or the Majas. Here, I've got one that's still in the package. That shows you how much I get out there bunker spooning. So the bunker spooning on the wire, definitely a good bet. My father spoke to me this week. He had it back in Barnegat Bay fishing on spot. So there's still enough bass in the back. Good fishing out front now. You know, that's the big thing. Some folks out along the front beaches, not just the back bays or the Raritan Bay, but out front, some good fish. Suzanne Crescenzo caught and released this beauty off the Jersey Shore just the other day. So that is a good sign as well. The fleet I saw over the weekend was strung out pretty thick between Spring Lake and Seagirt. And it wasn't hard to figure out where the stripers are when you find the fleet. I did see where Jeff Newell from the Reel Seat, he had Jimmy Bonanno out of Manasquan earlier this week. And it's not just the striped bass, but some jumbo blues in the mix as well. I've had reports going back a couple of weeks of some jumbo blues out in Long Island Sound. In the last week or so, we've heard of jumbo blues out in the Raritan. Hopefully they're moving down the beach. That's something to pay attention to for those of you who are entered into the Long Beach Island Surf Fishing Classic, the Derby, or maybe you haven't entered yet. Well, there's a good mix of tournament entries coming in from that LBI stretch in the 67th Annual Derby. Some better striped bass, and there's no bluefish on the board yet, so it's your opportunity to win. But I did find out that folks are hooking up with some stripers on mullet and bunker on those circle hook rigs, but some folks are also taking them on artificials as well. In fact, Nick DeGennaro took over the contest lead in that LBI Surf Fishing Classic. 34.5-inch fish, weighed 18.02 pounds, and that was taken on an artificial. Plugs, swim shads, they're taking fish. And again, that Derby is still wide open. It's anyone's opportunity to score this week. If you want to get in on that tournament, you can still enter over at Fish Heads, Jingles in Beach Haven, or at Surf City Bait and Tackle. Now out front there in that LBI to Seaside stretch, getting some good movement on some fish. Some of the guys boating letting me know things are getting pretty interesting. The DiEugenio brothers, Dave and Steve, had a little disagreement on Disney or something like that, but they ended up getting out on a good weekend this past weekend. 7 nice stripers between them on Friday, fishing the 35-inch range, caught on paddle tails and about 35 feet of water off of Maniloking Friday, but they used Sunday's light winds to head to the Shrewsbury Rocks, scoring fish to 40 inches on chartreuse gator spoons, running and gunning under those birds just near the 3-mile line. The flutter spoons, I'm finding out, very effective. Have had good fish on them in my past as well, but the flutter spoons are great for dropping into those bunker schools. And yes, there are some fish to be had in South Jersey too. The Huber boys, Tommy and Dennis, intercepted bass in front of Wreck Inlet on the way in from tog fishing at Garden State South the other day. Dennis said the big bass were just finning on the surface along the 3-mile line, but they're in tighter too. Andy at Riptide Bait and Tackle and Brigantine started the week off by saying that, quote, things are finally starting to get exciting in Brigantine. He reported that Alex of Salt Brothers Outdoors on YouTube had several fish up to 40 inches in the middle of Brigantine using fresh shucked Riptide rodders. Andy said on Monday that he'd heard of new waves of stripers showing and also still had some nice fish to report out back too, up to 42 inches taken on eels. A little farther to our south, covering Atlantic and Cape May County. In our fishing reports this week at thefisherman.com, field editor Anthony Califano, who covers the South Jersey stretch, he breaks down the latest action in Atlantic and Cape May County, says water temperatures behind the barrier islands holding steady, which is just ushering in more and bigger stripers. Word out of Grassy Sound Marina, for example. The fish are stacked up along the sod banks from Hereford all the way down to Cape May Harbor. And again, while many of those big migrating stripers seem to stay off the line as they head south through Atlantic and Cape May counties, there are a lot of school size and slot keepers in the mix in the backcountry, all the way from Absecon down. And now, as this bait continues to flow out the estuaries in the coming days or coming weeks even at this point, I would expect that action will improve in tight along the beaches. Yes, even in Cape May as well. Like I said, those westerlies in the forecast should really help push more of that bait out some of the inlets. On the tog front, South Jersey, we've gotten good reports at Ocean City Reef as well as Great Egg Reef sites. That's from Waterfront Marine in Summers Point. Bait and Hook reports fantastic tog action in the back bays of Atlantic City, Ventnor, and Margate. You can expect the same thing down into the lower stretches of Cape May. Offshore wrecks as well, as Hands 2 Bait and Tackle said Brad and Liam here found good black fishing outside on a trip last week. Farther to the north, Jason at Fisherman Supply in Point said over the weekend that black fishing out front has been phenomenal from Axel Carlson to the Shrewsbury Rocks. And of course, as water temperatures naturally decrease this time of year, you can expect some of that togging to start moving out to some of those deeper wreck sites. But that's not been the case of late. Water temperatures have held pretty mild here at the end of November. Still getting some good reports last I checked, even in the Point Pleasant Canal. Of course, the headboats heading out of Manasquan and Shark River, they're enjoying a little bit more of a variety. You can think more of the porgies to the northern section of the state, but quite a few successful anglers aboard the Big Mohawk of late in terms of the tog grounds. Out of Belmar, and I know that Jamaica too as well has been mixing it up with sea bass, like I said, porgies, and also some pretty good sized cod in the mix as well. Now, a lot of the boats will be sailing on Thanksgiving as well as through the weekend. It's a popular weekend for friends and family to get together and get on some of those headboats, whether in Monmouth, Ocean, Atlantic, or Cape May County. I know the Osprey is back into some tog fishing out of Atlantic City as well, all the way down into Cape May to Lewis, Delaware as well. Get aboard some of these headboats. Take advantage of black sea bass while it's open through the month of December, and of course the blackfish as well. It is, of course, the most wonderful time of the year. For me, it's my favorite holiday. Family, feast, football, and yeah, a liberal dose of fishing. What more could you want? We'll talk a little bit about canyon stripers next. But first, let's spend 80 seconds out west with my friend George, the Pocono Outdoors guy.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, the weather is still cooling down. It's in the 30s right now, and we only have, what, 5-6 weeks left in the year, and it won't be too much longer, and we'll be talking about these things, pulling these out of the garage, getting ready for the hard water. But, you know, right now there's still lots of action going on, and even though it's Thanksgiving weekend, we got a couple days to get out in the water yet, and I'll tell you what, the action is still going strong. We've been talking about how these fish are pushing up in the shallows. You got the smallmouth fishing still good, the walleye fishing still good. Lots of great stuff going on, and what I love this time of year is when I get an email from a longtime Fisherman magazine reader. He emailed me and said, George, the largemouth bass are still up in the shallows and the big ones are biting. Chris Tyson emailed me and said he got into a couple really nice ones, the largest being 8.7 pounds, and he was fishing up in Lake Monroe. So we've been talking about this pattern for a few weeks, guys, you know, getting up in that shallow water, working jerk baits, maybe working Ned rigs, you know, something that's going to drive that reaction bite. So the fish are on still. So you might want to take advantage of the next couple days over the holiday weekend, get out and let a little bit of a line. So, but all you guys go get out, enjoy the holiday, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. From Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
Thanksgiving Massacre of 2016. Truth be told, that's how my buddy Tom Lynch started referring to that epic striper blitz, the owner of Angry Fish Gallery in Point Pleasant, the documentarian of so many surf events, in particular that 2016 striper blitz. A great place to holiday shop, by the way, if you're looking for some custom art. Angry Fish Gallery in Point Pleasant. It was Tom that took the incredible cover shot of me on the December edition. Out in newsstands this week, and you subscribers, you'll get it in the mailbox. It looks like a jumbo, but that's because Tom's a good photographer. Our cover boy is proof that fishing must be good. That fish, 48 pounds, was caught, tagged, and released on Election Day. I've got the full story on that tagging event from Election Day. It's on page 14. Now, as you flip through that article on our striper tagging, Hail Mary and Uncle Fred, you'll learn more about that fish that we tagged June 17th. We called it Hail Mary. Her surprising travels towards the Hudson Canyon, up around the Bacardi and Texas Tower area, before finally making its way, like every other striper I think we've tagged in this study, to Nantucket Shoals. You gotta read it to believe it. That's in the December edition. There's also our holiday gift guide with close to 100 different holiday gift items specifically for fishermen. December Bluefin by Captain Jimmy Frieda, gearing up for Tog with Frank Mahalik. A December Surf Rundown with Nick Hanacheski, plus a unique look at Garden State South Reef using the bathymetric viewer with Wayne Young. If you're one of those folks who gets dragged out to Black Friday shopping, you have my apologies. I'll be on the beach. But do us all a favor, when that Donnybrook happens there at that 50% off electronics sale, when you take your cell phone, don't record this way. Make it horizontal. Do us all a favor. It's easier to record when you do it this way. And you could use this clip as a guide too. When you're shooting video and you want to send it over to me to include in our video forecast every week, shoot that horizontal forecast. Turn my phone sideways, as I did on Saturday. See that? There's a benefit to staying tuned to my forecast all the way until the end. Not too much of a Monmouth County spot burn, but enough to get surfcasters' tongues wagging. Here's to our Thanksgiving Massacre of 2021. May you be standing alone at the beach when it happens, but rest assured, you won't be alone very long. Happy Thanksgiving, my friends. We'll see you again next week.
Steigercraft boats, built by people who fish our waters. Serious anglers choose Steigercraft for their 40 years of boat building experience right here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Visit steigercraft.com for a dealer near you.